and I just screamed, Jesus, like my neighbors could hear me. Hi, my name is Sandra, aka Mama Amari. I'm here to just share what God has done for me. I'm a doctor, I'm a GP. I'm not here to give medical advice. Okay. I'm here to just tell you from my perspective what I've been through in terms of pregnancy losses and just seeing some breakthrough at the end. And now I am Mama Amari. Okay. It came at a cost. And so I'd like to share and just be open. I know I have to be vulnerable because my heart here is just to help other women. It was a difficult, very difficult time for me, a very difficult time. Some people say I'm a strong person, I'm usually quite resilient, but trust me, I wouldn't describe anything less than being at the bottom. So I felt like this experience brought me to the ground and I was so broken. But I think I've experienced some healing. It's been a fantastic journey. I've met lovely people along the way. So I really want to share this journey with you and hopefully that someone is blessed through just listening to this. So once you get your popcorn and you're watching and you feel like it's a blessing, make sure you share it to other women as well. So they can also experience some sort of breakthrough in their lives as well. Yeah. So what actually happened? I got married in 2018. It was very exciting. Some of you were probably there for the wedding. It was in September of 2018. We didn't go for our honeymoon straight away, but we went in March of the following year because that's when we could both get decent amount of time from work. And we had our honeymoon. As new couples, we decided that we wanted to wait a year. I wanted to do some traveling, wait a year before trying. Just enjoy each other's company first. And that's what we did. And it was all perfect. And then once we started trying, can you imagine? Pretty much within like a month or two, I got pregnant. It's like, wow, God answers prayers. It was miraculous. Got pregnant, excited, not really sure what to expect, but I remember the first thing that made me think I was pregnant, I was feeling quite dizzy, so lightheaded, and just quite a bit tired. And I think I had a mild headache as well. So I just carried on trying to already plan, first pregnancy. You just want to do everything. You're already probably thinking about names as well. It was just an exciting time, and I could already see the end of it. So like, oh, my due date was like the most important date. Oh, by this time I should have a baby, after 9 or 10 months, as people would say. And sadly, within after 6 weeks, I started having cramps and noticed that I was, when you have cramps, you're like, oh, hopefully, this happens in early pregnancy. Hopefully, it's nothing. And then the spots, and then you're like, oh, God, Jesus, no. And then eventually the bleed came. I'm a doctor, of course, I know, you know, threatened miscarriage, accepted my fate. That was it. Well, as we know, miscarriage is quite common. They say 1 in 4 pregnancies ends up in miscarriage. So I didn't think much of it. I was like, oh, well, I'll just try again. I mean, thinking probably is a good thing because early chromosomal abnormalities, I want to have a healthy baby. So it's fine that happened. It's probably my body trying to get rid of, the beats that were not good. So it was fine. I didn't really take it, to heart. Tried again. And again, within, 2 months or so, I got pregnant and hoping that having recurrent miscarriage is rare, and I didn't think I'll be among that 1%. But sadly, this actually happened while I was at work with a patient. I remember clearly this lady came with abdominal pain. I was examining her abdomen, her tummy area, and that's when I started having like severe pain. Ran to the bathroom, and I actually passed the product at work. I couldn't come back to the consultation room. I had to just tell her I wasn't feeling too well. Just went to the reception, and I I remember vividly when I told them, I couldn't really say what happened. I was just so broken. And they were like, "Oh, are you gonna come back later to finish your clinic?" I was like, "Well, okay." Well, that's a valid question because my afternoon clinic was fully booked. But unfortunately, I couldn't come back, and I had to just tell them that there's a lot going on. And I told a few people I was close to what happened, and I know the reception. It was hard work for them because they had to call all the patients to cancel the clinic, save them from coming and getting upset and the rest. But that was it. And again, I thought, well, maybe there's not much happening. Maybe just I was just so unlucky. And then third time, the third time it took a year of trying, nothing was happening. At that point, I was even like, oh, I'd already got referred to the fertility doctors. But interestingly, while I was waiting, I fell pregnant. And yeah, I was like, yeah, this is a miracle. This is probably gonna stay. And first trimester went. I had a lot of pain because I noticed I had fibroids, and that was causing a lot of pain. I had what they call fibroid degeneration. That's where there wasn't enough blood supply going to the fibroid, and it dies off, and it just causes a lot of pain. Yes, I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain relief, codeine, like morphine, because I was in so much pain. But I was still working. That was around COVID actually. It was in um, 20, 20, was around COVID. So at that time, I started working from home. So while I was actually doing a teleconsult to the patient, I was in so much pain that I had to come off. Unfortunately, I just started my afternoon clinic again, and someone had to take over. Um, but sadly, that carried on, and that ended up with me going to the hospital. They did a scan. The baby was fine, so I was happy. The baby somersaulted. That's when I found out the gender. She was a beautiful girl, very active. Went home reassured. Got home the next day. Didn't feel too well. Got up to use the bathroom. Went to the toilet, and then I was like, "Oh, I'll just have a quick shower while I was up." And I had that was the most painful time of my life, basically up to date. And I had an I went into labor basically at home. I was alone at home in the shower, and the water broke. Everything was out, and I just screamed, "Jesus!" Like my neighbors could hear me. I live in a semi-detached house. Then the neighbors could hear me, so you can imagine. Like I screamed. I bet they thought something bad had happened. It was like the pain just pierced through my soul. And I had to crawl because I was in so much pain. I had to crawl to get my phone, and I wasn't sure what to call 999 because I was naked. So I had to call my husband first because I couldn't even stand up to get dressed. And yeah, so that was the beginning of my misery. It felt like a flash. I'm like, just like that. I had a second trimester pregnancy loss. I remember I was on the floor, cold, naked. I was so weak. I couldn't even get clothes or anything. I started trying to take a shower, so I was wet, cold. And the first thing that came to my mind was, do you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. That was the first thing that came to my mind. But I was so tired. My mind, the first thing I was like, you know what? I need to just walk to the road and just let any car just take me. It was just very maladaptive thinking, but when you're in so much pain, like I felt like my soul was crushed, like the deepest pain I've ever experienced in this life. The only thing I could do was I was thinking, should I call 999? Because, so I got my phone, I called my husband. So he came, was able to help me, and we eventually went to the hospital. So I had to take my dead daughter. I was so excited I'd given her a name already, and her name was Amarisa, and it means promised by God. So took Amarisa in the hospital, wrapped her, took her to the hospital, got there, and it was just like, everyone I couldn't even speak, but my eyes could literally tell the story. And this was during COVID. Literally after that, I got back home. Obviously, family came around, and I just want to say thank you to my family because this was COVID time where it was so risky, but they just had to define all odds and like, you know what, they would not let me do this alone. And some friends reached out too. In fact, my house was filled with so much flowers. I became a gardener overnight. But I just want to say thank you, and you know yourselves. Um, but I was down. I was down. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, literally, my day was waking up crying. Like my eyes were swollen. Like my eyes were literally swollen from crying. If crying could bring a dead person back, you know, probably would have. But then I realized, like, when you love someone, that's what happens with grief. It's the love that makes you, you know, to experience the pain that's just you can't even explain. Um, and it was amazing because I've never met her. She was in the womb, but though I could feel her move. But there was already that connection. The term miscarriage, I feel it doesn't shed enough light into what happens because it is pregnancy loss. Because how old was she? But she wasn't. She was born when I had a miscarriage, but she was already a child to me. Yes, I couldn't get over it because my faith at that point was very shaky because I couldn't understand why. I felt like with the two previous miscarriages, I was obviously disappointed, but I just felt like this was the one, this was the promise by God, this was the one that was going to stay. And when it happened, it was just like my entire life just flashed before me. I was like, what do I even believe in anymore? I didn't know what I believed in anymore. Yeah, but you will find out soon that God is closer than we think He is. Actually, He is. I didn't feel that way at that time, and I couldn't even do anything. I couldn't pray. I couldn't even just carry. I was just numb to everything. Like I was basically like a zombie. I wasn't functioning properly. And that's when I realized that you know what, you can be successful in other areas, but everything to me, my career, everything was just on hold. I could not do anything. That's why for me now, I'm trying to focus on what I feel is important in life, and that's friendship, family. Yeah, just having a good support network it's that's just gold. That's valuable than anything else. So I am a Christian. I believe in God, but for the first time, I was questioning. I was like, is God even real? I mean, was it all in my head? You start thinking, was it just fictional? Was I just believing in something that wasn't real? Because I thought, oh, God was really going to come through this time for me. I'd accepted what happened in the past previous two, but with this one, I was like, maybe because I'd gone past the first trimester and a second trimester, you're already thinking, oh, wow, this is a miracle, and this happened. I just could not pray. I could not talk to God. I did not want to talk to God because I'm like, I'd prayed before and this is where I ended up. So what kind of prayers am I going to pray now? Like, I didn't even know what to say. I was in a very, very dark place, because there's a part of the Bible that talks about even if your faith is as small as a mustard seed, you can move mountains. And I thought my faith for this time, because the last two, I was like, maybe I was playing. I was like, my faith this time, I felt like, in my opinion, I felt like, yes, I felt like I had so much faith and this was going to be the pregnancy that stayed. And the way it happened, I was like, why did it? Maybe I should have even lost it in the early stages than getting to 18 weeks where you're already having hopes, you're feeling fetal movement, you're connecting with the baby, and just it happened in the most tragic way, alone, prematurely. But if you think of it, it was horrible. Like it was a memory that I just could not get rid of at that time because I could just see just the trauma unfolding, in my eyes when I slept at night. It was just the images were just, haunting me more or less. But I'm here to say that there is indeed hope, and it doesn't matter that I didn't even know. I didn't even know that how I was gonna get out of it. I was, even though I'd applied to do therapy, which it was COVID. I was on, they didn't even get back to me. I was on a waiting list, but no one got in touch with me. So after a while, I was like, do you know what? But Trust me, this is where I needed a community. People were praying for me. People were praying, and God came through. And I'll share that with you because that's what really got me through. So, well, eventually, I had to move on with life. At this point, I decided that, okay, maybe I should just focus on other things. I was referred to the recurrent miscarriage clinics. They did a postmortem on the um, fetus as well, but it came back with nothing. I had all the screens, everything was normal. So I was like, well, I indeed need a miracle. Because at this point, no one could explain what actually had happened. But they were still saying, well, the fact that you could stay pregnant till the second trimester, then there is hope. But I'm like, that was even scary because getting pregnant is one thing, but I'm like, the thought of now getting, everyone, when people are pregnant, you get pregnant and you're happy, but me getting pregnant was not a source of anxiety because I'm like, I could see a positive test, but what happens afterwards? But yeah, I had a lot of support. And the thing that made it more interesting that the support I had wasn't from even, obviously I had support from family and close friends, but there was some support that I had that it was just from revelation, I think, from God. Like these were people that some of them didn't even know what I was experiencing and they had dreams about me. Like, four different people dreamt about me from different parts of the world. When people are in fact, my friend, from Canada, she was like, she saw me in the dream. I was holding the boy, you know, and at this point there was no hope or glimpse of that happening. So God is faithful and He knows how to do His own things. It's not the way I expected it to happen. And when I say that, the miracle didn't just come straight away. In fact, I went on the next pregnancy, became an ectopic. Imagine, I'm there now believing God, like my faith is rising. I'm now trusting God, and I fall pregnant again. And the next thing, that one almost even led to my death because came back home. I had what they call a corneal ectopic pregnancy. That means half of the baby was in the womb, the other part of the baby was in the fallopian tube. In fact, when I went to the hospital, because they could see the gestational sac in the uterus, and boy, there was lots of bleeding already. They was like, "Oh, you're having a miscarriage," and that's what everyone thought. Only for me to get home, I almost collapsed. And when I went back to the hospital, that's when an experienced sonographer now found that actually there's actually at that point actually my fallopian tube was swollen. It was going to rupture. I was, you know, that would have been a disaster because as you know that could be fatal. But thankfully, I made it to the hospital before that happened, and I had surgery literally within 24 hours. So look at me thinking, ha, God is working, but then the stats were not adding up. At this point now, I only have one fallopian tube. And if you know, first of all, ectopic pregnancies is not that common. It's about 1 in 80 pregnancies. And when you have an ectopic pregnancy, there's a risk of you getting another one. So now I'm thinking, but I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna choose faith over fear. And thank God for the word of God because that's what I held on to. Like I said, I never made it to that list for therapy because they never got in touch with me and I just other things happened in my life that I moved on from it. Although I would advocate getting help, professional help, but the prayers of people, and people send me the link NSPPD, I didn't even say amen because I didn't believe, but I would just put it in the background while I was in tears, and sometimes the prayers felt like it was directed at me, and but God knew what He was doing. So after the ectopic pregnancy, I still went on to have another miscarriage. So that was how many now? So that was um 5, and then see, I've even lost count. So that was a 6 weeks early miscarriage. That happened when I was at work again, seeing patients. That's why you have to be nice to your doctors. You know what the person is going through. You know, thankfully that the patient wasn't nasty to me at that time, but you just never know. I was literally having a miscarriage in the middle of my consultation, but I had to find the strength to complete the consultation. I knew what was happening already because I've already had so many. And at this point, I was like, you know what, God, please, I don't have the strength to keep trying. was like, let's pack that to the side. Let me do some traveling first. Only for me to find out. If you guys remember, on my trip to Canada, that's when I realized I was pregnant. Because I was like, I was waiting for my period. It wasn't coming. At this point, we weren't trying actively, if you know what I mean. We weren't trying. Um, and only for me to find out that I was pregnant. Found out I was pregnant when I was about catching flight, not catching feelings. I was about to catch a flight, and then I found out I was pregnant. And prior to this, actually, I was referred to because I had been to two different recurrent miscarriage clinic. I went to I was seen by the Nottingham team. We moved to Kent. I was seen by the Kent team, but I was just like, I think there should be more that needs to be done. I wasn't convinced that all the tests was done, so I insisted to get referred. I got referred to St. Mary's Hospital, so I was under the lovely, amazing Professor Dame Leslie Reagan. And she looked after me. I had further tests. In fact, repeated all the tests I had done before as well. Um, and she made some recommendations. So I should go on aspirin, a higher dose of aspirin. I was on cyclogest. Previously there was question on how we're doctors. We look at research papers. Some of the research paper might be inconclusive for certain things. But I was like, at this point, give me everything I want to try. So I was on cyclogest, I was on aspirin, and then I had like folic acid and vitamin D as well. But then also, the other part of it was I had fibroid removed. This was after the ectopic pregnancy, um, because at this point, you know, with all the pregnancies I was having, the fibroid was increasing. You don't really know how fibroid is going to behave during pregnancy, but mine was increasing, unfortunately. But at this time it was quite big and I had multiple, so I made a decision to have it removed. So I had a myomectomy. Um, and after the myomectomy, so now we are here. So now pregnant. You know what happens? Pregnant for the sixth time, alarm bells starts ringing, and you're thinking, but do you know what I held on to was just the word of God. That was the only thing that kept me going, because it wasn't, medicine. At this point, I was like, do you know what? I need a miracle. I need a miracle, for this to work. Um, and all I could do was just to take every day as it comes, you know, trusting God. But the interesting thing that happened was all the prayers I had made over the years, God answered everything. Some of them I haven't forgotten about it, like genuinely. Initially I was praying, oh, I want, the Hebrew woman prayer, I want to deliver like a Hebrew woman. I want to have an easy pregnancy, all of those things. But it came a time where I, I was just begging, and I was like, I just want the baby to survive, you know. But God, he had a better plan for me. As you guys know, if you know me, in fact, with this pregnancy, somebody even know I was pregnant because I was still very active. With the previous pregnancies, I couldn't even go to the gym. They say, you go to the gym now, too much exercise, But, that's not true. You can still do it with caution unless you have a medical condition. But back then, interestingly, I went to forums as a doctor. I was like, let me see what do people think, and the guilt that women feel honestly is too much for us to take. The guilt that some people feel, and there's some men in forums asking, is it because I was constipated, the baby, had a miscarriage? Some random questions. I was like, I didn't even know people thought that way, but it just opened my eyes to say, like, and at some point, I was thinking, could it be what I've done as well? Because I know I like to be fit and active. Although I was doing it within reason, I mean, with caution. I wasn't doing any abdominal exercise or anything that, put any strain down around that area. But you couldn't help but just question and like, is it what I've eaten? Is it the cheese you had last night? Is it the wine you drank like 100 years ago? I don't know. But there's just a sense of guilt. And that's why I want to speak to you that, to be honest, most miscarriages is not your fault, you know. And when the time comes, everything will work out well. And it did with this time. In fact, I was still very active. I was doing Pilates, everything was fine. The baby was fine. And we have a baby I'm married now, clearly. Um, And the other thing as well is just make sure you talk to people about how you're feeling, because one of the therapy I had was I decided to become vulnerable and I was open and I had to share what was happening. Obviously, you don't have to share with the whole world until when you're ready, but, or if you ever get ready, but at least you can share with people you feel like you're comfortable talking to, because then it helps you grieve as well, and it helps you release some of the burden so you're not just absorbing everything. And you'll be surprised the amount of women that had even been through maybe worse, like some of my aunties, grand aunties, and they were telling me this. I'm like, I never knew. And these women went on to have obviously healthy children, and for some of them they had even forgotten. It was when they were trying to just advise me, and they're like, this happened to me years back, and you'll be surprised. So don't do it alone, and trust me, there is hope. That's just one thing I want to reiterate, that things can get better. It will be a journey, and to be honest, the journey that I've been through, I don't think it was wasted, because it's helped me as a person. Even me, I had to come to terms. Why do I even want a child? Do I just want someone that looks like me? Do I'm not questioning your reason for wanting a child, but I had to ask myself that. And I feel like I have a better perspective on actually why I want to raise my own family. And now I feel like even the child I have is not even mine. Oh, this child belongs to God. So everything I have to go back to God and say, this is a child they gave me. What do I do with him? So it's given me a fresh new perspective. I feel more at peace. And I know that, because storms of life are going to come. That's reality. They say wahala in Nigeria need to finish. Problems in need to finish. Things will come, but the main thing is, what foundation are you building on? Who is your foundation? What is your foundation? What are you trusting in? Like, say some people trust in horses, in chariots, in their riches or whatever. But me, my trust is in the Lord. That's what I've decided. That's where I'll build, like, the solid rock of my foundation. He's the one I'm going to stand on. His word, that's what I'm going to stand on. Yeah, so that's the place I'm in now. And I'm just thankful that, my life is richer. And I'm thankful for adding to my family. And I want to be here for other people experience. Obviously, I don't want you to experience it, but peradventure it happens. I've been through pregnancy losses, like miscarriage, early miscarriage, late miscarriage, was it ectopic pregnancy, fibroid removal. These are all problems that I'm sure other women have experienced. If you want to talk about it, if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to support you in whatever way I can. But yeah, this is my story. What do you think?
Right, you're welcome.
We're ready.
We're ready to rock and roll.
Go and get a baby.
Yes.
This way.